okay, so the reason that I wanted to meet was like I've just, I've got my own little marketing thing going on, and I just launched, well, I launched a course last year, and I've been working with the public and entrepreneurs and startups, and I kind of see how far the gap is between where they are and what they're doing and where they're trying to go, and how they really don't understand all the different levels and complexities of marketing. So it's really hard for them to be successful. And then there are these like marketing mavens. They're like funnel hack and click funnels, and they do all that stuff, but they don't have any of the real corporate or academic marketing background that we have. And so it didn't cause me to wonder what's the point of it, because I can see the difference. I can see the difference between the surface level marketing and when you not only have corporate experience, but when you actually have the academic and the fundamental understanding of marketing, because those guys are just doing tactics, and they don't really have any strategy or depth of understanding. And so now that I've been in the entrepreneurial world for a while, I don't miss corporate because I like my freedom, but I miss having other people that are on the same, like they just get marketing. Like, how you and I, or me, you and Angela, or me, you and Amanda, like we could just talk real strategy. Or I can't remember the girl who used to do email. She left Compass. She still does email. I can't remember her name now. I want to know what's happening in corporate marketing, because like these guys can literally say, hey, we'll grow your ROAS by 10% or your money back, because they don't have a legal department to go through. They can make videos and put them out in 10 minutes. They don't have to get a copywriter to look at it. Or so I wanted to know from you what's going on in corporate marketing. And I don't even know if from my experience, corporate marketers aren't even taking advantage of all of the different strategies they can, because for them, it's just a job, right? It's like these entrepreneurs who make their own millions, they will execute every strategy to the nth degree, because every like half percentage increase in conversion is money directly into their pocket. Whereas just like what you were saying, you could work for corporate and no matter what you do, you're still getting the same paycheck and maybe a bonus. So I want to know from you. That's the real meeting. But I also wanted to tell you that you're one of the smartest marketing people I know, and you were one of the first people to talk about demand generation. And then I wanted to know from you, why are you so in love with marketing? How did you know about demand generation? And you're the one who was telling Compass, we need to put aside money for testing. We need to try things like Marketo, but there's always all this red tape and blame. You remember that? There's always this red tape and blame when it came to marketing. So those are all the things that I wanted to talk to you about. That's the whole
Jizzy,
long shebaz.
it's always so nice to hear from you, Jizzy, and I'm so happy you're doing well and everything's great with you and you still have that amazing positive energy and light with you. So it's always awesome to hear from you.
So sweet.
Okay, let me tell you about what's going on in corporate marketing. So corporate marketing right now, the big buzzword right now around corporate marketing, or the big flashy thing right now, is before it used to be demand gen and then it became ABM, account-based
That's
marketing.
right. I don't even understand quite what that is. I had to look it up, but we can talk about that later because
So
whatever.
yeah, so
Okay.
here I'll tell you. So
Okay.
demand gen is basically like think of demand gen as like speed dating. You're basically casting a wide net and you're trying to get your brand out there and you're trying to create demand and capture it. So you're hoping people will learn about your brand, learn about what you're saying, get engaged. So you're creating the demand for what you do or what your brand is, and then eventually you're capturing that demand by getting them to fill out a lead form and becoming a lead because they like what you have to say and they want to talk to you, right? So
Right. If I
it's
can
almost
pause
like,
for 1 sec, I just want to know, I
yeah.
want you to know that that was kind of the inspiration for the Soul System, the course that I created. It's SOLD, Strategic Organic Leads on Demand. Because what I was finding, even with Compass, like the leads that we got that were the cheapest were the ones that we got from referrals. And the leads that were like $4,000 per acquisition were from paid ads. So I'm telling people they're focusing on bottom of the funnel strategies instead of top of the funnel, which is the demand generation. So that's where sold comes from, SOLD, strategic organic leads on demand. So I just wanted to let you know you are a part of that you don't even know you're impacting me in marketing. And you're the one who also told me when I was like, well, I do marketing on my own. And you're like, yeah, apply. And I did. And that's why, and we had the
And now
realest
you're
conversations. And I mean,
and
I'm
now you're the
doing,
marketer taking over.
yeah, well, I'm doing, I'm a marketer, so I'm making myself look way better online than my financial pockets would tell you. But, It's still good. I get enough business and I don't have to work for anybody yet, but it's not all glamorous and glitz on either side, whether it's corporate or entrepreneurialism, just so you know.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. It's always a hustle, right?
Okay, so yeah, you were saying it was demand
Okay.
generation and then it
So,
moved to ABM, which is
yeah, so now demand gen is your speed dating. Everyone comes in, and eventually you start to a lot of the people are not good matches, they're horrible leads, and then you get the few that you actually want to take someone out on a date on, right? And then ABM is the exclusive version of going exclusive with someone or the few people that you actually think have potential to become your person. So I'm using a dating analogy because I think it's a good way to look at demand gen versus ABM. So ABM is you have a very dedicated prospect list of accounts. You know these accounts inside out. It's like these are your cream of the crop people that you absolutely want to go after. You know everything about them. You know all the decision makers. You have the right prospect database. That is your one gold list of people that you want to go after. And so you want to wine and dine them with personalized experiences. It's almost like you're talking to them and nurturing them through the buying journey. So difference between ABM and demand gen is when I use the dating analogy, you're casting a wide net for speed dating with demand gen. You're getting a bunch of leads. A lot of them are garbage. You finally find a few that are the right fit, and those are the ones you want to spend the time whining and dining and becoming more exclusive with. So that's you can't do that with everybody. You can't do ABM with everybody because it's expensive. You can't wine and dine everyone. So you really just want
mm.
to wine and dine the accounts that you know are the ones that are the perfect fit for who you want to go after.
Is
And
that
the way
more, is that just niche marketing or is it more than that?
it's marketing to a it's marketing to a very finite prospect list. So yes, they tend to be
Okay.
quite small. You're talking about like for the businesses we work at, it could be anywhere from 100 dedicated accounts that we want to go after to 500 dedicated accounts. But we're not talking about demand gen where it's hundreds of leads. It's basically I've got a prospect database of 500 banks. Those are the banks I want to go after. I know my market really well, and those are the people that I want to go after. So the way ABM and demand gen work together is demand gen, when you cast that wide net, it tells you how your brand is resonating in the market because the type of leads that are coming in through that channel are telling you who's engaging with your brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what ends up happening is when you start to get a bunch of leads, and let's say six of them are garbage and four of them are really good, what ends up happening is instead of looking at it at the lead level, you look at it and you go, hey, that's Giselle. She works at Mappdom. That's one
Oh,
of my target account companies. So now instead of targeting Giselle, I'm going to target everybody who works at Mappdom because it's on my target account list, and I'm going to wine and dine everybody at that account by being extremely personalized and going after the account versus the individual. So demand gen, you're looking at the lead. Account based marketing, you're looking at the entire account. So that's how they work together, right? One is
okay.
looking at it at the lead level, one's looking at an account level, but you need to use both. One is to see what's coming in. Once you like what's coming in, you pivot to dedicating more time on the accounts that you like, and you start
Mm.
penetrating everyone at that account level. So that's the ABM demand gen, kind of how they play off each other. Now what's happening is we've moved from demand gen to ABM to this idea of go to market. So
Oh,
everyone
it's another
in
buzzword.
corporate,
Yep.
yes, everyone right now in marketing struggles with not having a customer problem or a sales problem. It's a go to market problem because a lot of what they're trying to do has to do with product, customer care, sales, marketing, everyone that touches the customer. And the challenge is they haven't thought through a go to market strategy. So, what we're trying to now do with a lot of clients, or what we're seeing is there's like a framework for how you think about going to market. So, the first thing you might do is say, hey, Giselle, do you know your addressable market, your total relevant market, and your ideal prospect customer database that you want to go after? Do you have that information? Do you know how many
No.
decisions are made for software in a given year and how many of those decisions you're seeing as a company today? So a lot of people will be like, hey, no, we don't know our market very well. So that's the first part. That's the first challenge of go to market. If you don't know your market, who are you going to market to? So you need to do a market assessment and understand who is in your total addressable market, who's in your total relevant market, who can you actually serve, and then do you have the information to actually go and serve those people in terms of your prospect database.
So that's
So
the
that's one
deeper
pillar.
level stuff. People think they know their
Yeah,
market, but that's deeper level stuff.
Yeah, so that's just one area of it, right? So that's like, okay, I need to know who I'm going after. Cool, that's one area. Now, what do I need to do next? Okay, so then you might look at, okay, let me see. Now that I understand who I need to go after, how am I, what is my brand perception in the market? So what's my brand identity versus reality? So I may want to be
Oh.
future forward and I may want to be innovative and I might want to be whatever, but from a brand reality standpoint, my customers actually see me as legacy. So there's a big disconnect
Oh.
between what I want to be, my brand identity, and how I'm actually being perceived, my brand reality. And the distinction between how you want to be perceived and how you're actually perceived is a gap that so many businesses struggle with. So then when you're talking about go to market, you're saying, hey, you don't know your market right now. So you have to figure out your market and your prospect database so you know who to go after. That's great. But what's the point of going after them if your brand right now has that horrible perception? So now we need to relaunch and bridge that gap between your identity
Mm.
and your reality. So that might be the second pillar of your go to market strategy. Then the third pillar might be okay, now you know who you want to go after. Now you know how you want to represent yourself. So you have a story that you want to tell to these people that you're proud of. But now, how are you going to tell that story? Is it going to be demand gen? Are you going to cast a wide net? Or are you going to do ABM? You know exactly who to go after, and you're going to tell a very dedicated, personalized story to these 500 accounts that you know inside out. Or are you just going to
Mm.
cast a wide net and try to get the whole world to learn about you so your brand starts to get better and you can measure the type of leads coming in? And then when you start to like the leads, you'll pivot to account based because you know that those are leads you want to focus on. So that's the demand. That's the now I have a story. How do I want to tell it? Right. Then there's the reporting. So it's the one version of truth. So it's like right now,
Ooh, that is so true. That's a really good way of saying it.
right?
The one
So right,
version of truth.
yeah. So right now, Giselle, a lot of businesses are giving people leads, and the lead model is dead. So what
Right.
happens is they get a bunch of MQLs. They go, "Hey, client, I sent you 100 MQLs." Client goes, oh, my marketing must be working for the clients that don't know. Eventually, the clients are like, hey, how come these marketing MQLs are not translating to revenue? So the challenge is marketers are now hung up on metrics that businesses don't care about. So when we talk about click-through rates and engagement rates and open rates and click-through rates and MQLs, those might be good metrics for a marketer to look at. But there's a massive misalignment in the language that CFOs, CROs, and GMs care about. What those guys care about is bookings, meaning sales, pipeline size, win
Wow.
rate, average contract value, deal velocity. That's the language they speak. So if we're coming in and saying as marketers, oh, we generated 100 MQLs, it means nothing to them. All they care about is what's in their pipeline. So if you were to come to them and say, hey, forget the 100 MQLs. If you open up Salesforce right now and you look at your sales pipeline, you need to close 4 new deals this year. You have a
Mm.
20% win rate. So in order to close 4 new deals, if you have a 20% win rate, we need to generate 20 opportunities because only at 20%, only 4 of those are going to close, right? So you need, if you don't have a funnel size of 20 opportunities, there's no way you're going to get to your 4 deals. So now where are you getting the 20 opportunities? Well, I'm getting 5 from all my demand gen stuff through my website and my SEO. I'm getting 5 through my account-based marketing program. I'm getting 5 through BDRs, and I'm getting 5 through whatever other channel. So that's how I know I'm getting to the 20.
Mm.
Now a business actually understands what you're doing because they're like, oh, I now know how much I need in my pipeline and I know where I'm going to get the pipeline and I know my win rate. So I know I'm confident that if I generate this pipeline by a certain date at this win rate, I'll close the 4 deals. It has nothing to do with the MQLs and the click throughs and the open rates because ultimately I can generate 1,000 MQLs. If none of them turn into an opportunity, it's a complete waste of time, right?
Right.
So it's we have to move away from the lead model and we have to look at what I call pipeline velocity, which is the size of your pipeline, the number of opportunities, the win rate, where the opportunities are coming from, and your deal to close. How long does it take to go from an opportunity to a close? Those are the metrics that businesses care about. And so
Is
transferring
pipeline
that mythology.
velocity your own terminology, or is that an industry word?
It's I used to call it pipeline intelligence. The industry word has now become pipeline velocity.
Okay.
But not many people, it's so new in terms of like how people refer to it that I think it's starting to take on the generic term of pipeline velocity. But I always clarify what those things are because they could mean different things to different people. To someone, pipeline velocity could just mean how quick your pipeline turns into a deal, which is also
Mm-hmm.
a valid definition. But to me, I like to look at it from the levers responsible for that. So the number of opportunities, if you increase your opportunities, your pipeline will hopefully, that's one area. If you increase your win rate, that's another way to expedite your pipeline velocity. If you increase the type of deals you're bringing in, that's another way to increase your pipeline velocity. And if you decrease the amount of time it takes to close a deal, that's another way to increase your pipeline velocity. So marketers need to go away from getting hung up on, shoot, I just need opportunities. You can impact your pipeline from generating opportunities, which is amazing. But if you can't just do opportunities, if you increase any of those other levers, your win rate, or the type of deals you're bringing in, larger sizes, or
Mm.
decreasing your sales cycle, if you do any of those, your pipeline velocity will increase. So just to give you an example, Jizzy, like let's say we had you had a bunch of opportunities coming through your partner channel. Okay, you had a bunch of partners that were bringing you referrals.
Mm-hmm.
You're only getting 2, 3 opportunities. Okay, so it sounds like it sucks, but your win rate from your partner channel
Could
is
be like,
80%.
yeah, yeah.
So you're getting few opportunities through that channel, but your win rate's 80%. Now your inbound, let's say your inbound is generating a 10% win rate, just very, very low. But the number of opportunities coming through that channel are
It's
1,000,
huge. Right.
right? So you've got to start to evaluate your channels based on the
Mm.
pipeline velocity metrics that I told you. So it's like one channel might suck at the win rate, but you still want to keep it because it's driving so much volume. Another channel might suck at the number of volume, but the win rate's really high. A third channel might suck at bringing in many opportunities, but the size of the opportunities it's bringing in are bigger than you've ever seen because they're enterprise, they're not mid-market. So you start to evaluate your channel based on looking at these metrics, and they start to tell you how these channels are performing. And again, that's the insight that your CFOs and CROs care about. So when you start doing leads and click-throughs and open rates, that's when they want to shut the door. So I'm rambling a lot. Does this make sense?
No, no, it's awesome, but I'm just like my heart is so full because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what it's like to talk to like a strategic marketer or somebody in corporate because startup people don't know about these things. Half of these terms would be lost on them. So I have a couple of questions. One, so how many positions have you had since we left Embanet at Compass Pearson, and how has each role contributed to the level of knowledge that you have now? That's my first question. My second question would be, do you still have to fight? Like as a VP, you're obviously very knowledgeable. I want to know, are you like reading newspaper, newsletter articles, or where are you getting this information? Are you part of the AMA? Where are you getting all this updated information? And because I know in marketing you usually have to fight. There's fighting with sales, there's fighting with someone, there's fighting because we want money to do these things that we know will help generate revenue. So basically, how did you get to this point, and who do you have to fight with or prove to get what you want in marketing done to advance the overall corporate objectives? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So it's always a struggle. Doesn't matter what your title is. What you have to do is convince general managers or CEOs, the CFO and the CRO, why it's a good idea for them to give you a certain level of investment, right? And what
Right.
that's going to mean. So the education that needs to happen there is I always start by speaking the same language. So I'll just go back and say to them, what do you want to close this year? And they'll say, oh, we want to close 3 net new deals. I'll say, okay, cool. How big are the deal sizes? 5 million bucks. Okay, cool. So you need to close $15 million worth of net new deals, right? And they're like, yep. I'm like, all right, how long are your sales cycles? And they'll be like, it's a year. So I'll be like, okay, so
Whoa.
basically, so I'm like, if your sales cycles are a year, do you roughly know what your win rate is? So if I brought you 5 opportunities, do you know what your chances of winning one are? And they'd say, yeah, 20%. So I'd be like, okay, cool. So if you need 3 deals that you need to close and you have a 20% win rate, how many opportunities do you think you need in your pipeline? And they'll be like, oh, so we need like 15 opportunities. And I'm like, yep. And I'm like, because your sales cycle is so long, when do you need those opportunities to be there? And they'll be like, oh, like a year before that. And I'll be like, okay, how many do you have in your funnel today? And they're like, 2. And I'm like, okay, so you have a target of 3. You have 2 in your funnel, and you just told me you needed 15 opportunities, and you needed it like a year ago. So is it fair to assume that right now you don't have the pipeline size that you need to close your deals? And you get them to ask the question, right? And they're like, yep. And you're like, okay, so how do we plan on getting this pipeline? So that's the first way I try to relate it to them. I try to work back off the targets that they care about
Okay.
and get them to get on the same page that they need to generate pipeline.
And that's
Once
something
they're
that you've
on
learned
board,
over the last like 8 years that we
yeah,
haven't worked
yeah. So
together. Okay.
yeah, so once I've established that they need to generate a certain size of pipeline, then I have their attention because they're like, oh, this is a guy that's actually data driven. He's not just kind of just going to drop, we should make this creative, we should make that creative, and they think marketing just does campaigns all day long. So it's one of those things where now you start to tell them, okay, here's how we're going to generate it, and then you start to walk them through the different channels, and you talk to them about how much each channel can generate. And then you
Mm,
start to talk about their brand because everyone's going to relate to you about their brand because no one's ever happy with how their brand is represented because they feel like they can always tell the story better. So
right.
then branding is another lever to be able to push. And on one way to get alignment is to take their competition and put them on a matrix and talk about how their brands look versus how your brand looks and help them understand what the gap in telling that story is. And then the third part is letting them know that 80% of the decision making process is already done by the buyer. So at the end of the day, they can have the best product, the best sales pitch. Their biggest competitor is their customer. And what I mean by that is their customer's access to information. So today it's a shift in thinking. When you think competitor, you think, oh, who's my biggest competitor? But if you really think about it, your biggest competitor is actually your customer's access to information because they self-select who they want to talk to.
Yes.
So you can have the best pitch, you can have the best product. If you can't get in front of them, you're never going to be able to make that sale. So at the end of the day, you can't talk to them. And if you can't see them, how the heck are you supposed to sell them? And so that's where the brand becomes key because your brand is going to amplify what you stand for and why you're different. Everybody sells software. Software does the same thing. You can't play the feature function race because say you have a cool feature, someone else is going to replicate it tomorrow, and then you're back on the same playing field. And now you're
Yeah.
telling Giselle to make a decision based on price, which is the worst position you ever want to be in. So your brand becomes extremely important. So that starts to resonate with them. And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, we have to do something about our brand. So once you start to get those conversations going, then it's easier to start to build that case. So that's how I start. It's the misalignment from their growth targets and aligning on the language, figuring out how they feel that their business is being perceived in the market, and helping them understand that what they need to close those deals and why their brand is going to be an impediment if they don't start taking that seriously. And then that starts to get more conversations going. Now, where did I learn um, some of this stuff? So,
Like, how
Infinite
do you keep
Compass was
yourself up to date and current? Because I mean, I go to masterminds, but they're not for corporate. So, like, what corporate conventions? Where are regular VPs? Like, what are you guys going to?
yeah, Jizzy, I honestly suck at keeping up with stuff. Like, I don't read, I barely attend podcasts and all of that. Like, I have a list of things that I want to do and I never do it. I'm just suck like that from an admin standpoint. So, part of what I've tried to do in learning this stuff is the alignment of the language and all of that stuff. Because I'm interested in it, I
It's
do like
natural for you.
I love Infinite Compass for like doing data stuff, right? So I always want to look at like, hey, how many opportunities do they have in their pipeline? What's their win rate?
That's what I'm
How
saying.
quickly
You're
have you
like
gotten
you're the biggest blessing to me, the biggest blessing. Like just working with you, and I'm listening to him. Like you're still so brilliant, and you're still so smart. And you know what I realized? What was a part of my problem was I was bringing all of this high level, sophisticated marketing to a very unaware market, and I'm like, don't you guys understand the value of what I'm giving you? This is gold, but they didn't know. It's like right over their heads. So talking to you, I'm like, yeah, you get it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's
Yeah,
just so brilliant. So yeah, and that's why I left Embanet because once you left, so I want to know about the different VP jobs you've had, but that was always our aspirations. And hey, we could do this person's job and we could do this, couldn't look, yeah, we totally could, and we are. But I remember when you said, okay, I got this other gig, I'm like, well, fuck, I gotta leave too because I'm not doing analytics. Like I remember camp was so horrific for me, so necessary for businesses, like to have to answer and account for drops and stuff. I remember we would talk to the SEO team, we would talk to the Google's team, but yeah, anyway, I got off topic. But so after you left, where did you go? And just tell me about being a VP and what's it like in the corporate world.
I Eminent. Well, after I left Eminent, I became a director of marketing for a research firm. It was a horrible culture, but I
Oh,
just learned. Well, all I learned there was how to build relationships with all the directors and sales. So like marketing was seen as like this horrible function that didn't do anything, and they hated sales and they were completely in different rooms. It was horrible. I had to take everybody out to lunch one on one, out of pocket, just to say to the salesperson, why do you hate the marketing team so much? Like, what is it? And I was new, so I had that liberty. So
Yeah, and
they were
you
like, yeah,
you did that on your first job, right? With the football, there was a company you
yeah,
worked with. Yeah. So
yeah,
that's always
yeah,
been
yeah.
your
So
thing.
yeah, so just doing discovery, right? Doing discovery and finding out what their problems are, and then what kind of leads they did want, and what kind of opportunities they did want to see, and then getting them to commit to the fact that I'm actually helping them get opportunities if they action the ones that I pass over. So that's what that job taught me, was just about creating relationships and alignment in the language. And
Okay.
then I went over to go after that. I went
London, you were in London.
yeah, that was the London one.
Oh, that was the
That was
London
the,
one.
and then I did, and then I think I come right here. I went into, yeah, I might have come straight into this because I've been here 7 years now, right? Seven and a half.
Oh, you have. Okay, so
Yeah,
what
yeah,
position
seven and
did
a
you
half.
get? And so yeah, like you sound like you're a leader and you're talking to the CFOs and the CROs. And I remember those sort of boardroom discussions. So tell me about what they hired you for, what things were like then, and then where you have brought them over the last 7 years.
Yeah, so they hired me as a director of marketing, and then I moved my way up from that to the VP of marketing. And when I was a director of marketing, I was just responsible for one business, right? I was
Okay.
marketing for a company, but I'm part of a business that has multiple companies that get acquired, right? So the goal eventually was, let me do this really well for one business. And what they needed was generating pipeline, helping them close deals, having a data-driven model to show that it's working, helping enhance their brand, helping them see how to get more out of their existing customers. So again,
Oh
another
yeah.
miss by agencies, right? Everyone focuses on net new. If you look at a business and you say, hey, out of your existing customers, how much upsell opportunity is there? Have you
Yeah.
done a white space analysis to see who's got what and what you can sell into? Right there, a lot of businesses are like, no, we haven't done that. We're like, okay, well, why don't you do a white space analysis to figure out what products you currently sell into your existing customers and who's got what, and figure out the opportunity that there is to sell into them first, because that's low hanging fruit, that's credibility
Mm-hmm.
with your customers,
Mm-hmm.
it's quicker close rates, all of that. And then they'll be like, oh, there is actually a lot of opportunity to sell here. And then you'll tell the account manager, well, you should come to me with a number that you can now commit to because you know your accounts, and tell me how much more share of vault that you can grow from these existing accounts. So my point of this is just, a lot of people focus on net new, but there's so much low hanging fruit that you can provide as a consulting fractional CMO to just come in and say, we're not just doing net new. We're going to look at your entire business. We're going to look at your brand. We're going to look at your market, your addressable market. We're going to look at how to tell that story through your brand. We're going to figure out what's the medium to tell it through. Is it ABM? Is it demand gen? Is it both? We're going to put the reporting framework so you have one version of the truth and we're speaking the same language. But we're also going to look at your existing customers, because why would we neglect that? Your customers are with you for a reason. We should be leveraging them to understand, first of all, is there opportunity to create more business? Have we done a white space analysis? And how do we take your customers' knowledge and leverage that to new prospects instead of going out and being the marketer? People like to hear from customers. When I always see the businesses, and I've stolen this from someone somewhere, I heard it, but it's, I like the thing. It was something about what's unique to you, what's important to your prospect, and what's defendable by your customer. That should be the methodology through thinking when you're thinking about your messaging framework. It's
That
what's
last one
unique.
really resonated with my stomach. That last one is what is defendable by your customer. That is a different level. Well, the first two I'm okay, but oh wow.
Yes,
Okay.
because then you can have your customers kind of tell your story for you in the market,
That's a
right? And
great
so you're not
one.
selling anything. You're using defendable stories to say what's unique and important to your prospect and unique to you. So yeah, so I did that, Jizzy. And then once we saw value in that, basically what ended up happening was they said, hey, if you're doing this for a single business, why don't you do it at a portfolio level for multiple businesses? And that way you can be a consultant almost to all of these. So you're a
Ooh,
VP of marketing, but you're essentially a consultant to all these businesses, and you're able
that's
to now go and
fun.
see what works well. So one of the things that I wanted to answer for you was, the other way that I get a lot of my knowledge is by working with agency partners. So because businesses
Mm.
can't afford to bring in 10 marketing people,
Mm-hmm.
what I try to do is put in a lean model. And that lean model is me designing the strategy, a marketer doing the operations in the business, and
Mm-hmm.
then you need someone for the execution. And so you can't find a PPC person, an SEO person, a paid social person. Like, no one's going to be able to spend that kind of money. Not many businesses can afford that. So I try to bring on agency partners that I think are really good in those areas.
Okay.
Well, I don't get to, but I mean, I get to make the recommendations or whatever. And then basically, if the business believes in what I'm saying, then when that partner comes on board, I then you start to ask questions, right? So when your PPC person is doing these channels, you're looking to see what they're doing. When they're doing SEO, you're trying to understand what they're doing. So a lot of my knowledge also comes from just being a little dangerous enough to ask the questions for these very specialized firms that do this for multiple clients. And then that also gives me a little bit more knowledge around how they're thinking about stuff.
That's brilliant. And that's why I like talking to people like you and other people that I will interview for my regular like podcast. I learn so much. Like, so when we do SEO, for example, I'll focus on it for 1 month and I have different experts, 4 experts in the month. And the different aspects or elements or perspectives that they're coming from SEO, and they're all each really good. I'm like, wow, I have a treasure trove of information talking to these specialists. Okay. And then so how happy are you? Do you like what you do? Yeah, because are you planning to stay there? Are you gonna leave? Or you sound so brilliant. They're very lucky to have you. I hope to work with, I told you that years ago. I hope to work with you doing something sometime again, because yeah, your brain is, I've met a lot of marketers, but yeah, you're so sweet. So yeah, what's it like corporate life? What are some of the struggles or shitty parts? And would you go anywhere else? Like, what are other, do you talk to other VPs, SVPs? Do you talk to other marketing corporate people? And I know you have 5 minutes, so we're good.
No, that's okay. Don't worry. I think, Jizzy, it's the most frustrating part of being in the role is you are a salesperson, because at the end of the day, you're constantly trying to nurture a relationship into asking a business to invest in you and give you the money so you can go and put a program together for them. So lots of businesses are so underinvested in sales and marketing, and they don't have the education behind how to do it correctly, that a lot of the times, even though I know I can go in, if someone said to me, here's 10% of my net revenue, go take that, Imran, and make our pipeline good, and we'll get out of the way. That would be my dream. That would be my dream, because I would have the funding that I needed to go and do whatever I needed. But part of the problem is, if you try to go to them with your entire plan, that
They get
sticker shock,
overwhelmed.
that
Yeah.
sticker shock for them on the price, they'll shut you down. So what you have to do is, in that framework that I told you about, the go-to-market strategy, you have to look at their budget and go, I can't do all 8 things. I can't do your addressable market, your brand, your demand gen, your ABM, your reporting, your expansion revenue, your customers. I can't do it all. So based on the budget you've given me, this is what we're going to do in year 1. We're going to refresh your brand. We're going to get your SEO. We're going to get your PPC. We're going to start getting leads coming in. Year 2, we're going to switch to account based, because now we have a prospect database to go after, because you can see the leads coming in. Now we'll get really personalized, and we'll build the reporting in the dashboard. And year 3, we'll start to really dive into more expansion opportunities. So you can do it. It's just, it's so annoying, because you know that you can get them there in a year and a half, but you've got to wait twice the amount of time, because they're only willing to give you so much budget until they see proof of concept. So
exactly.
And when you have long sales cycles where it's like a year out,
how are you going to do
you've got
that?
a really big timeline, right? So I think that's the big challenge. I think if businesses just start, it's like you have a roadmap of exactly what needs to happen. It's just taking you so much longer to get there, because you have to nurture people along to give you that allowance at each stage. So that's the most frustrating part about it. The most rewarding part about it is to see the look on people's faces when they realize marketing is not just some fluffy creative engine, and it's data driven, and it's strategic, and it's helping them hit their numbers. That's the big win. And you get to see a lot of different practices that work in one business that you can leverage across another. And you can also see things that didn't work that you don't want to implement in another. So you get to learn from multiple businesses, and you get to be exposed to multiple relationship building. And I would say, the 4 biggest skill sets that I think help in our industry, number 1 by far is relationship building, which you're amazing at. So relationship building is number 1, because having the CFO and the CRO on your side and the CEO, that's going to get you so much farther along in getting the budget that you need to invest.
Because that was always the problem. Budget, fighting for budget.
Yeah. So the relationship building is huge. And it's I can't emphasize it enough. It's so good. The second is data-driven metrics in a language that they can understand. So helping them educate and understand on how you're showing the value of your efforts, because otherwise they can't appreciate it. So when you're looking at metrics like the stuff we talked about, or even if you're really mature and you're looking at lifetime value or cost of customer acquisition or all of that, you have to find a way that you almost feel like you're educating those stakeholders on marketing, because they're going to have so much more respect for you when they realize that you're data driven and you're in that bottom line thing. So that would be the second biggest thing that I think I've learned. The third is to really test new things, but test on a very small scale before you pilot. So we spent $7,500 on a little dinky test. Everyone was annoyed. No one got any meetings. I'm like, you guys spent $7,500. Why do you care? They're like, yeah, it's not doing it much. We got 4 meetings. And out of the 4 meetings, one turned into a big deal. That's, I don't know, $3 to $5 million in
There you
average
go.
contract.
Yeah,
So it's like that was
you taught me
$7,500
about that
spent,
too. You taught me about
right?
testing because you're always frustrated. Like, can we put aside $2,500 a month for testing? So that is a
Yeah.
part of my model now, and I got that from
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you, Jizzy. And I think the last part is presenting and having strategy sessions and workshops where you're building individual relationships for that workshop with the product person one-on-one. And then you're building it
Mm.
with the customer service person one-on-one. And then you're building it with the salesperson one-on-one. And why am I saying one-on-one? I'm saying one-on-one because everyone wants someone to listen to them. And the product people are like, oh, sales doesn't listen, blah, blah, blah. Marketers just go market whatever they want. The salespeople are like, I need all this help. I'm not getting enough leads. No one's helping me. I'm doing it all by myself. So everyone's got something to complain about. So when you start talking about the individual groups one-on-one, you get so much insight on their pain. And this is the sales part of it. And you're able to relate to the pain and you're able to teach them something different about how to address the pain through the go-to-market strategy. And then when you bring them in a room together to do a workshop and you're selling them back on their pain, they're all nodding along because they're not going to argue with themselves. This is stuff that they've been waiting for someone to say. And then when you build an alignment around, hey, your product roadmap's not aligned with how we're marketing it, here's why. Your sales teams doesn't think they have good leads, here's why. The marketers don't feel like they have a bridge, here's why. You have a go-to-market challenge. All your teams are isolated, and these are the gaps that we see. And now everyone's nodding along because you've talked to them individually, you know what their agendas are, you know where they're trying to get to. And then when you start to build a plan, they're all on board because they're like, wow, someone's listening. And then it starts to create alignment between these three groups. And then it goes away from saying you have a sales problem or you have a marketing problem. It starts to make the business think about, oh my God, maybe our go-to-market approach is completely not thought out because we're operating on all these silos. So that's where it starts to become a little bit helpful on the relationship building side.
This is why
I've rambled
companies
so
need
much.
people. No, you
I've rambled.
didn't. But you're just so smart, and any company that would hire you is just in good hands. I'm so proud of you being one of your SVP of marketing. How many people do you have on your team, and do you have everything out to agency? And anytime you need anything, like I love working with you. If you need whatever, I would love working with you. You're so smart. But yeah, so how big is your team, and who executes all this stuff?
Yeah, so Jizzy, when I was at my company that I told you about earlier, when I joined here, I had a team. I had a pretty big team. I had a team of 8 marketers and 3 BDRs. But when I
Oh, okay.
joined, the portfolio, where you would think that I would have more people, I had a team of 2. So I was like, what the heck? So I immediately thought, great, I'm out of a job because what am I going to do here? Like, I can't. Like, I have more companies and less people. But that's where I think the relationship building made sense. A lot of the businesses just wanted to invest. They just didn't want to make sure their money was going down the drain. So it was a lot of, if I'm not going to get headcount, then the only way I'll get headcount is to convince the businesses to give me the money that they're not wasting in the right areas. So what I did was discovery. I just spent the first month talking to every business, learning the pain, talking to the product person, the salesperson, everything we just talked about. And then I went back and said, this is why you're struggling. Does that make sense? And they'd be like, yep. I'd be like, okay, listen, this is where you're inefficient with your spending today. You're spending them on all these trade shows. There's no ROI. Why don't you give me that money? Let me allocate it for you. And so when they said, yes, we're willing to give you that money, that was the win. So now I couldn't hire a team of 8, right? Because I'm at a centralized level. So what I ended up doing was I got creative and I said, since I can't hire 8 people, I'll pick an agency partner that for the price of 2 headcounts, I can get access to an SEO, a PPC specialist, a paid social, an organic, an ABM specialist, a reporting person, a content writer. I can get that all. So now my model has shifted from being a team of 10 to being me doing the strategy, an operations person doing the day-to-day management, and then
And
an
then
agency doing the
agency.
execution. Yeah.
Nice.
And so that's what it shifted to
One
now.
agency doing the SEO, the PPC, the graphics, one agency doing it all.
Yes. I try to
That's
find
good.
now, Jesse, that's you know what? There are different agencies that are specifically good at different things. Like there's some agencies that are only good at ABM, some
Mhm.
that are only good at demand gen. So it's hard when people tell you they can do it all, chances are they're probably not very good at all of it. So I like to find agencies that are very good in that niche area. Like what area are they really good at? But demand gen and ABM are 2 really big pieces. So if you can get one agency that can do all of your demand gen for you, and then you can get another one that is really very good at ABM, then you've at least got two big facets covered, from
Mm.
creating brand awareness and leads to highly personalized account base. So for our businesses, we started with one because they couldn't afford both. But now that they're bought in and they're starting to see value, now what I'm trying to do is for the new businesses that do come on board, instead of selling them on one agency, I'm trying to bring everybody together to have one offering that covers the entire life cycle. So from beginning to end. So it covers your demand gen, it covers your ABM, it covers your BDRs, it covers the tools that you need. That way you're not going around using isolated people for different things. It's one place, one go-to-market strategy, and it's all in one place. The problem is when you're bringing in multiple agencies and partners, it gets really expensive, right? So, I'm toying with that model because I think it'll help me get so much quicker instead of waiting for 3 years to ask for another 100 grand. At least if I get it all at once, I won't have to ask for more money. So I'm testing
Yes.
that model. But if
Okay.
it doesn't work and they're like, no, we can only go with one versus the other, then I'll start them on one path. And then when we see value, I'll ask them for a bit more. But it's essentially a 3 year roadmap to build something that should
That's what I
really
was
take
gonna
a year.
ask you. Yep, I was gonna ask you. That's what I tell my people. I sell them in bunches of like 12, and 18 months because it usually takes 18 months for everything to gel and they'll see results
Mm-hmm.
sooner. But yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page with that.